In the opening scene of this classic, we have a narrator pretty much give us a rundown of everything that went down, leading to the point in the movie we're seeing now. The setting is Scotland, there's a dead king who left no heir, and an English king, Edward the Longshanks, has claimed the throne. So, the whole thing led to a fight between Scotland's nobles and the imposter king. Not wanting the fight to continue, Longshanks invited the nobles for a drink and a conversation, which is where the story begins. The story is going to revolve around a certain William Wallace, whose father is a commoner but owned property. His father's name is Malcolm, and his brother's name is John. On first encounter, William immediately establishes himself as a mischievous soul, but in a cute way. Don't worry, I've got to say that seeing the Scots wearing their plaid skirts in this movie is an entirely different vibe from what I've typically seen in modern movies. Seeing it in this movie feels less disruptive and more normal. Anyway, just an offhand observation. Back to the movie. Remember that meet and greet that I told you Longshanks invited the Scottish nobles to? Well, Malcolm and John, and William, unknown to them, went to check out the meeting. Guess what? The evil Longshanks had set all the nobles dangling from the ceiling like roadkill. It's the stuff of nightmares. Anyway, so the commoners want to band together and go and fight Longshanks. And I mean, they know their odds aren't great, but bravery. William, of course, wants to fight too, but his dad and his brother sure as heck aren't going to take a child to battle. When William wakes up the next morning, he expects to see his father and brother home since his dad had said that they'd be back by the following day. Unfortunately, when the villagers come to him the next day, it's to bring bad news. His father and brother, well, let's just say William no longer has either. After the burial, William's uncle, Argyle, comes to adopt him. At first, William is hesitant to leave his village, but Argyle isn't about to take no for an answer. Plus, William has a dream where his dad tells him to follow his heart. So, all's set. William and his uncle leave tomorrow. By now, it's been years since William left his little village. Longshanks is consolidating power and tightening his stranglehold on the throne of Scotland. He arranges a marriage between his heir and the daughter of his rival, the King of France, as one of his moves to gain an ally. But check this out. According to him, the issue with Scotland is that it's full of Scots. So, he institutes prima nocte. In other words, when a common girl gets married in Scotland, his thirsty nobles will have the honorable right to do the horizontal tango with them, first on their wedding night, no less. If we can't get them out, we breed them out. This man is just so abominable, and his thirsty lords are equally as abominable. Soon enough, William returns to his little village. In the time he's traveled with his uncle, he's become educated and a hella fine. Like a typical Hollywood movie, William immediately makes a beeline for his childhood crush. That is before he is distracted into some shenanigans by his childhood bestie, Hamish. William has come into town on the day of a wedding, and so, in the middle of all the fun and revelry, one of the English nobles comes to bless the marriage by claiming his right of prima nocte. Rolls eyes. This isn't going to deter William and his childhood crush, Murren, from starting their love affair though. And yes, Murrenaught is pronounced as you probably guessed. Unfortunate name for such a pretty girl. Shortly after, William is invited to attend the meeting for the Scottish revolutionaries, just like his father had done, but he's all like, nah. Murren's father informs William that he will only allow him to court Murren if he can prove that he isn't putting himself in trouble by joining the revolutionaries. Apparently, just turning down an invitation to join the group isn't enough for the man. William has to prove it somehow, even though I don't know what exactly Murren's father wants at this point. Murren, meanwhile, is in love, so she couldn't give a what? The two then decide to get married secretly at night in some woods or forest or something. Well, good thing about the secret wedding is, at least, no one's going to prima nocta Murren. Lucky. In all of this, Murren keeps living with her parents, and I'm not sure what the plan is because she keeps sneaking out every night to go do the do with William. So, what happens when she eventually gets pregnant? I mean, the truth would have to come out then. Anyway, there are bigger matters now. These disgusting pigs that call themselves English soldiers are about to take Murren forcefully. Fortunately, she bites the cheek off of one, and William steps in just in time to finish the work before they can do anything horrible to her. After putting Murren on a horse and sending her off to a safe place, William starts to beat up the rest of the soldiers. However, while he's off fighting one of them, he doesn't realize that Murren has been captured on her way out of the village. So he runs down to the grove, where he had thought Murren had gone to wait for him. Meanwhile, Murren is taken to the stakes and immediately liquidated. Oh boy, William is going to be freaking livid. When William finds out about his babe's execution, he leads his clan to beat the living crap out of the English soldiers. It's a whole massacre. And the Scottish boys are not even playing at all. They pierce, break, destroy, impale, and smash everything that stands in their way. The surviving English soldiers soon find out they stand no chance against the fury of the Scottish troops, so take several chill pills and stop fighting. Of course, that isn't before William liquidates the guy that executed Murren in retaliation. After such an impressive defeat, the entire village rallies behind William, crowning him their new champion. But it isn't just William's village. Other villages soon start trooping in to form an alliance. with William as the leader and Hamish as his lieutenant. As their first mission, the troop attacks one of the many English garrisons in their town. They clap some soldiers, but spare some others to take a message of rebellion to Longshanks. When Longshanks gets the message, he is on his way to France. So he challenges his son to find a solution to William Wallace and his band of rebels with a hard slap. Meanwhile, there's this Scottish noble, Robert the Bruce. He's the rightful heir to Scotland's throne, and his father, Robert the Elder, is willing to do whatever it takes to put him there, including siding with the English. Spineless. When the Roberts learn of the rebellion, the elder tells his son to join in with the northern forces, but then makes a plan to condemn the rebellion from the south while Robert is fighting alongside William in the north. This way, he can remain in Longshanks' good books. So, win-win for them. Meanwhile, the Scottish rebels stay slaying, from one English garrison to another, as legends of the William Wallace start to spread all over the land. Very soon, the English army arrives in Scotland with an offer for the leaders of one of the villages. Longshanks has offered them estates and whatnot, but William has a counter-offer for them. They should go back to England, stop by every Scottish home and beg forgiveness, or everyone in the English army will be meeting their maker in battle. Of course, the English army does not accept William's terms. So of course, it's now officially a battle. The Scottish rebels literally go on a rampage, swatting the English soldiers like they're flies. William's victory at the Battle of Stirling leads the noble of Scotland to knight him. So, it's Sir William's to you now. His captains also get recognized too. Before you know it though, a fight breaks out between different parties of the nobles concerning who's the rightful heir to the throne of Scotland and whatnot. But this kind of talk bores Williams. He just wants to see Scotland freed. And so he walks away from the whole thing, announcing that he's leading his army of rebel commoners to invade England. The nobles laugh at him, telling him it's impossible, but William leaves anyway. The English are terrified when they hear of William's approach to York, a strategic town in England. Prince Edward has refused to send reinforcements into the town, so the city is unable to successfully defend itself against William and his men. By the way, this particular town is ruled by Longshanks' nephew. Soon, Williams and his rebels arrive in York. Of course, they destroy the town, take away all the valuable stuff, and then send Longshanks a gift. I'll let you figure out what the gift is. But let's just say the gift was sent in a basket and featured the eyes, ears, nose, mouth of Longshanks' nephew. Wondering how he can best get his revenge, Longshanks decides to offer a truce. But he decides he won't be the one to go because William could kill him. He doesn't think his son is a great option either, because he considers him too weak. His final decision? Send his son's wife. $100 says this woman falls in love with William. She's already love-deprived since Prince Edward, Longshanks' son, doesn't particularly fancy her as he plays for the other team. So this is the perfect setup. Anyway, Isabella goes to William with Longshanks' terms, which he of course promptly refuses. So, Isabella goes back to Longshanks with William's message. William won't take any more towns or cities if Longshanks himself comes out for a face-off, but that's when Longshanks drops the bombshell. He has already sent troops to ambush William and his men from behind. So, while William waits for Longshanks to show, unknowing to him, he's being surrounded. When Isabella finds out Longshanks' plan, she sends word to William. Swinging into action, the rebels change bases while William goes to speak with the Scottish nobles, imploring them to help with the battle. But of course, they are too subsumed in politics to want to partake in battle. So, William turns to Robert the Bruce and tries to convince him to summon courage as the rightful heir to the throne and join the fight. At first, Robert agrees until he speaks to his father, who has other ideas. On the day of the battle, Longshanks himself leads the English army to Falkirk, where it's about to go down. At the start of the battle, Longshanks sends the Irishmen in his troop, whom he had thought were in alliance with England. But after they advance and meet the Scots, they immediately join forces to Longshanks' chagrin. Longshanks then sends another batch of men, and then the fighting begins. In the course of the war, two of the Scottish nobles who had initially pretended to be on William's side withdrew their troops and left William and his men stranded. Apparently, Longshanks had bribed them to turn on their brothers, and they did. The battle gets very heated, and the Scottish rebels start to lose men. Already, the English troops have clapped Hamish's father, one of William's right-hand men, and honestly, they do a lot of damage to the Scottish troops. But William's heart is not done breaking just yet, as he soon discovers that even Robert the Bruce had been fighting for Longshanks all along. William cannot believe his eyes, and neither can I. Robert goes back to take a look at the fallen Scottish soldiers. What he sees breaks him, and so he goes back to his father and tells him that he will never be on the wrong side again. Mic drop. Meanwhile, William takes his revenge on the two Scottish nobles who turned on their brothers for money. In case I wasn't clear, he clapped them both. As time goes on, legends about William continue to grow and get more exaggerated per normal, but it gives William what he needs to gather more volunteers. Longshanks, on the other hand, grows sicker. Yeah, both physically and psychologically. The failures and betrayals of the battle at Falkirk have not discouraged William, and so he continues to fight, using guerrilla tactics. Isabella soon comes with word for him about Longshank's plan, which of course ends with a night of ahem. By the next morning, Robert sends for William to have a meeting with the nobles. Apparently, they want to swear their loyalty to William and join his efforts. Hamish doesn't think it's a great idea for William to go with the men sent to meet with Robert, but William decides to go. By the time William gets there, he is ambushed and captured to be taken to Longshanks. To be fair, Robert had no hand in this. In fact, Robert finds out too late that his father had set it all up from the start. Upon confronting his father, Robert the Elder reveals that it's the price for Bruce to become the king, but Robert no longer wants anything to do with his father, so he disowns him. Meanwhile, in England, William is charged with high treason. Isabella tries to speak with the now dying Longshanks to show William mercy, but Longshanks will not be convinced. I mean, he can't exactly speak right now, but his body language is still as stone cold as ever. Livid beyond belief, Isabella delivers Longshanks' death blow, not with any instrument, but with words. She tells him that his bloodline would end with him as she was pregnant with William's child, and would ensure that his son Edward didn't sit on the throne for very long after his death. Soon after, it's time for William's execution. He comes in looking like Jesus on the cross as the savage English people throw rotten fruit and veggies at him. I mean, these guys have brought kids to watch an execution. What kind of animals are these? You need to see the way they're all screaming like it's a freaking soccer match. In the crowd, two of William's closest friends have come to be there for him as well. As the torture begins, the executioner tells him to beg for mercy, but William won't. So, they start the process of disconnecting the different parts of his body. By now, the savage crowds are beginning to realize that there's something epically wrong with them for enjoying the show so far, so they begin to plead for mercy on William's behalf. The executioner gives William one last chance to plead for mercy, but again William refuses, choosing instead to shout the word freedom. After he shouts, the executioner does the Anne Boleyn on him, and thereafter, William's body is sent off in bits and pieces to the four corners of Britain as a warning. But what Longshank had thought would happen did not at all happen. Receiving unsolicited body parts does not deter the people of Scotland to cower to Longshanks. Some years later, Robert has become king and is going out to meet English troops to receive England's endorsement and formally accept English rule. But at the last minute, Robert decides to lead them into battle instead. Hamish is the first to throw down his sword and raise a chant with Wallace's name. The crowd soon joins in as they take the battle to the English troops. The Scots would eventually win the battle and their freedom, bringing the movie to a satisfying close.